The shul that I go to and work at is doing something historic right now, and they are inserting a Mechitza into the sanctuary, into the prayer service. For decades and decades and decades, in the main sanctuary, they did not have a Mechitza. That's that's the right way to phrase it. I don't want to say wall because that implies like division.
There is a proper.
It's like a fence almost, like a little bit of a fence.
Little divider.
A little divider, which separates the genders, men and women, whilst praying. And obviously it's a bold move for a synagogue who has not done this for many, many years. And it might be hard to fully grasp the point of it. Every day, we are blessed to interact with some of Colorado's most interesting people. On this podcast, Judaism with Altitude, we share their fascinating stories with you, and
we have a great time.
The shul that I go to and work at
special for you
is
today,
doing something historic right now.
So it's just
and they
us.
are inserting a
Mechitza
into the sanctuary, into the prayer service. For decades and decades and decades, in the main sanctuary, they did not have a Mechitza. That's
yeah. Okay, great.
That's the right way to phrase it.
To be here.
Thank you for joining us. I don't want to say wall because that implies like division.
So when I was in preschool, there is a proper.
It's like a fence almost, like a little bit of a fence.
A
little divider, which separates the genders,
and it
men
always
and
began
women,
like this.
whilst
Once
praying.
upon a time, there
And
was
obviously it's a bold move for
king.
a synagogue who has not done this
And we
for
always
many,
knew that's how
many
every
years.
story
And
started.
it might be hard to
I
fully
have a
grasp
little personal
the point
rendition
of it.
that for almost every story I tell is one day I was driving into Costco.
Or sometimes your story. Sometimes I was going to the Target pickup lot.
That's true too.
It's one of those two for you.
I do go to Trader Joe's sometimes also, just for the record. But I was driving into Costco. So that's the story I wanted to tell today. Today, I was driving into Costco. And what do I say as I pull in the Costco parking lot? My mind is now conditioned. So when I see that I'm about to enter the Costco parking lot, it's almost out of habit. It's a reminder. My brain sends me, ding, 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 there's something you need to do now. I say, Hashem, God, please help me find a good parking spot.
It's not simple over there at Costco. You could be back there quite a ways, no?
Yeah, it's often very busy. Could be very far back, pushing a huge cart full of groceries and things falling all over the place, right? And the baby takes up part of that cart too. So even more so, things are all over the place and falling out as they often do. And so this is how it was today. Okay. So I asked God for help. So what did I do? The first thing I did was I pulled into the first row. And I even had this thought in the back of my head of like, such chutzpah. Who am I to think that I'm going to get a spot in the first row at Costco? Half of it's even handicapped. That means like statistically, it's very unlikely to get a spot there. I said, you know what? God can do anything. And I asked for a good parking spot. So if this is the parking spot I'm meant to get, I should absolutely give it a try and drive down the row, at least put in the effort. Okay, done. Drove down the first row.
You know, it reminds me, I'm sorry, just to interrupt.
Yeah.
It reminds me of parking at the airport when you're like trying to catch a flight and you go into the economy lot.
Yeah.
And you always see those like first rows, like in the front part. And you always think that maybe just this one time there'll be an open spot. And there almost never is.
Yeah, very similar.
Okay. Sorry, go on.
So the first row, there were no spots. So I pulled into, so I'm waiting at the end of the first row. And there's another car driving by. I think, okay, well, if I'm trying to get a spot in the next lane, they could be also. And now they're going to be ahead of me. And then I told myself, no. If they're also looking for a spot, they're going to get the spot that they're meant to get. And I'm going to get the spot I'm meant to get. So I don't care even if they go right in front of me into the next row. It's fine. So they went ahead. They didn't actually turn into the row. I think they were leaving. A lady crossed the street and I turned into the second row. And I see, what do you know? There's a spot open. Thank you, Hashem. But what's going on with that spot? The car next to it has all the doors open and is loading everything in and taking a long time. So I look around and I see right across from it on the other side of the aisle is also a spot waiting for me. Perfect parking spot. And it's right across from where the shopping carts are stored, which is very convenient when you go to the store with a baby in the car seat.
Do you always return the shopping cart to where it's supposed to go?
Yeah.
So you never leave it there in the middle of the parking lot near your car?
Not in the middle. Once, recently-ish, I did leave it because I was like parked in the way next set of spots and there were no cart things there. And with the baby and everything, I parked it with other carts on the side, like where they were collecting, but not in the proper spot.
So I ask of our dear listeners, to interrupt, I'm sorry, but I do ask, if you wouldn't mind just leaving a note in the comments, is it socially acceptable, morally acceptable, ethically acceptable to leave your cart near your car and not to return it in the designated return spot? Anyway, please let us know. We like your feedback. Sorry, I interrupted again. Keep going.
It's fine. So I see my spot. I start to pull in. I'm not the best parker, so it takes me a couple tries. I pull in. I'm straight. I'm in my spot. I get out of the car, and I'm on my way around to the other side of the car to go get the baby out. And I notice I can barely fit through. It is the passenger's side of the other car, so I'm not as worried about them getting out. I'm like, there's no way I can get the car seat. But I'm like, this is where Hashem wanted me to be. I am exactly where I'm meant to be. So what did I do? I go in the other back door and just reach across and pull them out. And I'm telling this story because there's so many lessons to learn from it. And it's just so practical in our day-to-day lives, right? We want things to go a certain way. And sometimes they do go that way. And sometimes they don't go that way. Sometimes we can ask God for help. And sometimes we might not remember to ask for help and to think, oh, I got this on my own. And then when things don't go to our way or how we wanted them to go or as easy as possible, what is our reaction going to be? And I feel like this was a test. And I'm grateful that, this test, I think, is on the easier side, right? Parking at Costco. It's not like a big, hard thing in the scheme of things, that I was able to pass it. And then there's just one more piece of that. After I park and I'm on my way into the store, you walk through the parking lot and it seems like there's a lot of spaces around. I could have been like, oh, well, maybe I should have parked there or maybe I should have parked there. No, I know that I meant to park in that spot that I parked in. And I think part of this is just living a life with God in the picture. And there's so many different avenues we could go from here.
Well, what immediately comes to my mind is, let's say we take a trip to a location that has more than 3 kosher restaurants, like what we're used to, and we end up in a kosher restaurant, and I order the pasta primavera or the fettuccine alfredo, and then I go to the bathroom and I see that guy over there ordered something else, and then I start getting upset at myself, like, what are you doing? Why did you waste your calories and your stomach space on that when you could have got that? And then you start just thinking about the mistakes of the past. There's a term for that.
Ruminating.
Yeah, you ruminate about the past and the past mistakes you made, and you get really bummed and upset. But then you realize, no, if I ordered that pasta primavera, that was for a reason. I was supposed to do that. The Almighty wanted me to do that, and I'm supposed to have it for some reason. I don't know why. I'm supposed to. And I think so many people get so down and depressed because they beat themselves up over decisions they made in the past that seemed like maybe the wrong decision. At the end of the day, they made that decision and it's over. And like, okay, maybe you learn from it so you'll be smarter next time on your next decision. But like, you can't keep looking back in the past and like getting mad at yourself. Like, why didn't I be a little more patient and drive one more row closer? I could have done that. I could have been closer. That's not helpful for anyone.
Yeah, and I like your restaurant example because that could bring more real emotions than just one parking spot. It's like, the next level up. And I love how you brought that in. I was actually just listening to the Dov Ber Cohen podcast today. Shout out. It's a great podcast. Highly recommend. And he was talking about this. And you might feel that regret when you see that other dish. And that's okay. You should feel it. Let yourself feel it. The mistake we sometimes have with that is then we start thinking about it and thinking and thinking and thinking. And by thinking about it more and more, we're feeding our feeling of regret. So then you feel it. The more you think about it, you feed that feeling more and more. Our feelings, he says, are not meant to be fed. They're meant to be felt. We feel our feelings. If we were meant to feed them, they would be called feedings. But they're not. They're feelings because you feel it and you let it go. But using our thoughts sometimes, it would be so easy to eat the rest of your fettuccine Alfredo thinking about those delicious tacos and just feel terrible inside and out after such a meal.
That's right.
Yeah.
Wow, beautiful, beautiful. So I think we see that there's a lot of lessons that we can learn from this episode at Costco. And one of them, of course, is not ruminating and being comfortable with where you're at and understanding God's role in it, having bitachon, trust in the process, trust in God that you are where you need to be. And I think that's worthy of a show unto itself about that concept of a mini series, of a series, even, if you will. But I think one of the aspects that we wanted specifically to pick up on today was how the whole thing started as you pulled into Costco.
Yes.
Will you say more?
So the first step of the process is I recognize that I have a need. And when I recognize that I have a need, this, by the way, if you're watching, this is part of our juicer.
But we're using it as a podcast microphone, a little cheaper than what you get on Amazon.
See if you can hear me any better now. When we recognize we have a need, sometimes it's easy to just go through life and not even recognize and just keep crunching through, but to pause for a second, like, I need help with this. This is something I could use a hand, a little push. So then what's the next step? We actually have that need and you're able to recognize it because you're meant to ask for help with it. Who are you supposed to ask for help with it? The only one who can help you with every single thing on your mind. And that's the Almighty, our Creator above, who created us and loves us and wants to give endlessly to us. And all it takes is us to be able to open up and to recognize that we're in a relationship. And in this relationship, we can ask for things.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. I do want to just give a shout out to my buddy. Just literally texted me that our last episode of, actually, he listened to, when we're recording this, it would have been 2 episodes ago, of Judaism with Altitude with our special guest host, Aaron. He was so inspired by that episode. He literally signed up for J Denver just based on that episode. So you too can sign up for J Denver as well. A little short commercial plug. Now back to our program. And we were talking in that programming about, I was listening, that we can ask for things. And if my kid, this happens a lot, okay? This happens a lot. Thank God we're blessed with a number of children, and they often have Shabbos parties. And unfortunately, I don't think they're actually supposed to bring candy to the Shabbos parties. But let's just say that they were allowed to bring candy to Shabbos parties.
What's a Shabbos party?
A Shabbos party is on Friday, on Erev Shabbos, on Friday in school. They celebrate the fact that Shabbos is coming and they give treats and nosh to all their friends. So let's say that they were allowed to bring candy, and let's say that I owned a big candy factory. Let's say my daughter comes home and looks around, I don't know, outside for candy or in the cupboard for candy, or or just gives up. She can't find it. We don't have any candy in the house. So she just gives up and she doesn't actually ask for that candy. Well, that would be silly, right? Because her father owns a candy factory. So what we have to understand is that whatever it is that we need in life, whatever it is that you need, well, your father, God, he can give it to you. He's the CEO of the candy factory. He's the CEO of everything, of the world, right? Whatever it is that you need. If you just theoretically need a Denver Nuggets victory tonight in Game 5 to go up 3-2 against the Thunder, please God, it should happen. You could ask God for that. Now, I think there's what to talk about if that's the best use of, prayer helps you decide for yourself what's really important. And is that something you really want to ask God about? Now, I think nothing's too small to ask God. a parent craves a relationship with their kids, so you should ask for whatever you want.
If it's on your mind and it's bothering you, I think that's maybe why it's bothering you, is because God's nudging you. Hey, I haven't heard from you in a while. Let me make your popcorn too hot, and then you'll maybe burn your tongue a little bit and remember that I'm here.
Right. So yeah, it kind of reminds me how one time after school, my kids are like, "Could we go drive 30 minutes to Krispy Kreme?" And I was like, "No, we can't." Like, oh, because I really like Krispy Kreme. And I said, "You know what, little ones, I'm glad you told me that. No, you can't have Krispy Kreme right now, but thank you for telling me because I want to give it to you. I love you. I'm your father. I want to give you the things that you ask for if and when they're good for you. So I'm going to keep that in mind, and I'm going to try to give that to you when I can." So I think what we're getting at here is we're starting to get to a definition, just a basic definition of what we do when we pray. And prayer is not necessarily something that's only meant to be done in the synagogue, but it's done throughout our day, our life. You're driving to the parking lot, you need a spot. It's a great time to pray. The Ramban says that anytime a person feels stress or pressure or fear or terror or scared, that they have a Torah obligation to pray. It's like a sign from God, like, oh, please reach out now. I want you to talk to me. Because a parent wants that connection with their child. When we pray, that's what we're doing. We're connecting. So it's appropriate to always live a life of prayer. Throughout your day, you're praying constantly. It's a scary world we live in. But I think specifically wanted to bring this up because the shul that I go to and work at is doing something historic right now, and they are inserting a Mechitza into the sanctuary, into the prayer service. For decades and decades and decades, in the main sanctuary, they did not have a Mechitza. That's that's the right way to phrase it. I don't want to say wall because that implies like division.
There is a proper.
It's like a fence almost, like a little bit of a fence. A little divider, which separates the genders, men and women, whilst praying. And obviously, it's a bold move for a synagogue who has not done this for many, many years. And it might be hard to fully grasp the point of it. So to some extent, I think we wanted to talk about this idea of prayer, maybe to just better understand the point of it.
Yeah. I think also, and maybe this is me just liking to save the best for last, but I think we could even just talk the whole mini episode today without even getting to that. And maybe we can get to that next time, because first, it's fundamental to understand what prayer is. And there's different forms of prayer. And prayer is something that ideally we can be involved with throughout our day. And it doesn't involve a rabbi or a synagogue or a Mechitza or a prayer book or knowing anything by heart or any Hebrew. It's literally speaking from our hearts to God for our needs. And it's something that it takes practice to remember to do. And but this is prayer. And I've heard numerous stories from people, even just recently, people who I know, live, real stories of how they made time in their lives, like scheduled it in to take time and talk to God. I heard this from 2 different people last week, and how they're seeing such immense clarity in their life coming from that it's unbelievable. It's a game changer. Who would think it would be so easy?
Yeah.
Just talk to God in your own words.
It's a meditative healing exercise, and it promotes well-being, and you're taking time away from your busy day to connect to something much bigger than yourself. And again, I don't know, it sounds like maybe we're not going to go so much into Mechitza today, just a little bit, is that if I'm in the middle of meditating, I'm having a meditative moment, and you're right next to me, I'm going to have a harder time to focus. There's no secret, we're married 18 years, I like you. I like you. And when I'm sitting next to you, I like to look at you. I like to talk to you. I like to connect with you because I really, really, really like you. I can say that, right? We don't like PDA so much. So, yeah, I'm sorry to all of our fans out there. But yeah, I do like you a lot. And if I'm in synagogue and I'm sitting next to you, I'm going to be thinking about you and wanting to talk to you and focus on you. Maybe I don't know, maybe that's me and I got to work on myself. Fine. But when in synagogue, again, while it's true that we should be praying everywhere, outside of synagogue, in synagogue, whatever, but specifically when I'm in this sacred space designated for connection and prayer to God, I want to be able to focus on that. I want to be able to have any distractions around me. Maybe that's the reason why us men, we often put our talus over our head. We dial in to what we're doing. You're limiting the distractions around you so that you can focus. And it's just as simple as with you next to me, I can't properly do that. And so I think the Mechitza is ironically, it's a divider, a barrier. It's a great facilitator for connection. That if you understand the purpose of what you're there to do, then I think it makes a lot of sense. And in a way, it reminds me of an old story I heard in which Alan Dershowitz he wrote a book with someone else in which they were asked to rate God. And they came out, I think, with a B-. I heard this from Rabbi Ben Zion Schaefer on the Shmooze. It's a nice old, like an early podcasts, when podcasts were just coming out. He was making recordings all the time, really good stuff. And he says, they gave God a B-. Why? Because on one hand, God created such wisdom and infinite brilliance and galaxies and stars and mountains and powder days and sunsets and sunrises, etc. Awesome. The brain, the eye, the complexity is unbelievable. On the other hand, he created a world in which people suffer and people go through hard times and challenges. And so therefore they came out B-. As Rabbi Schaefer pointed out, well, if you're going to give a grade on something, then you probably should know what it is you're grading on. Right? What was the intent? What was the purpose of the thing that you're grading? Right? Like if I take not a toothpick, if I take a marker, which I just happen to have right here, and I go into my gums here, and I try to extract a piece of that falafel ball from Asli I had for lunch this morning, which was fantastic. Shout out Asli. That's legendary falafel, my friends. If you haven't been there yet, you need to go. Anyway, if I try to extract that little falafel, the little piece of parsley, it's stuck between my teeth, up here, the green little piece up there, and I use it with a marker, the brown marker, then of course I'm going to think that this is a terrible toothpick. But that's not the purpose of this marker. The purpose of this marker is to color. There's something else called a toothpick, which extracts green pieces of food stuck in your gums. So too, he says in this class, in creating the world, well, if the whole point of the world is to be endlessly pleasurable and easy, then yeah, B-. But if the point of the world is to be a place of growth and struggle and potential to grow immensely through that struggle and process and journey, then obviously gets an A+. You have to know the intent of the thing you're evaluating. So if we understand that the purpose of those sacred 2.5 hours on a Saturday morning when I'm praying in synagogue, if the purpose of that is to talk to my friends and my neighbors and my wife and my kids, then yeah, it's probably not the greatest thing to have in Mechitza. But if the purpose is to connect to the infinite and the divine and have an intimate moment of one-on-one time with the Almighty, then we understand that Mechitza is beautiful and holy and sacred and exactly what we need to fulfill that purpose. And afterwards, we go sit down and we have a festa geschmacke cholent kiddush, sit down and delicious kiddush with l'chaims and cholent everywhere and cold cuts and you name it. And that's when we interact with our neighbors and our spouses and our kids, because the purpose of that is to facilitate community connection, which is great, and that's the point of it. But those 2 hours of davening were there to connect with the infinite. So I think it's a very holy institution, the Mechitza, and I'm stoked that my shul has decided to go that direction.
Thanks for sharing all that. That was beautiful. It reminds me of the feature on the iPhone. You know how there's a do not disturb feature, and you can put it on while you're at work.
Or podcasting.
Yeah, which I didn't earlier, but I did now. Thanks. We have this, right? We create a boundary, a barrier from our connecting to all the rest of the world so we can focus on the task at hand. And that's what every productivity book says to do, is to turn your devices on work mode, do not disturb, silent, whatever you want to use, so that you can focus and be dialed in. And when something is, the Mechitza, maybe it sounds extreme, but why? Because it allows us to have that extreme focus. And you need that boundary in order to create, the extreme on the other side of what it creates. Another idea that I thought of, I really liked and wanted to share, is when you pray throughout the day and every day, then you get accustomed to it and you get accustomed to talking to God. So by the time you walk into synagogue, it's not like all this pressure. This is your one chance to pray during the day or during the week or however often you go. It's like your group exercise class at your gym, as opposed to the weightlifting. Maybe you come every day and you lift weights, you do the elliptical, you do different exercises, and then every once in a while you go to a group fitness class, because the energy of the group propels you forward and gives you a little encouragement, and you gain something different from that exercise than all the other exercises. So too, are you following? You look confused.
No, I like it. I'm just trying to think when you've ever been to a group exercise class.
In my head.
Oh, fine.
I run them.
I think you're right.
But yeah, I see it like that a little bit.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. So sometimes, of course, I love that metaphor, right? Throughout your day, you're, I'm doing exercise throughout the day. I run a couple miles here, do some push-ups there, but then you go to that group fitness class, that's just a little boost. Of course, you're doing it, and you should be doing it throughout the week and throughout the days, even when you're not all together. And that's the same with prayer as well. Prayer is just a constant muscle we're meant to develop and grow to further and deepen that connection with God throughout the day. And in fact, there's a mitzvah to have 100 blessings a day. 100 blessings. Why? Why do we say 100 blessings a day? So I think the answer is that a blessing is an opportunity to just stop and remember that something that you have is from God. It's a way to connect, a way to reach out to God throughout the day. When I wake up in the morning and I say a bunch of blessings, like, thank you, I can go to the bathroom. Thank you, I can walk. Thank you, I can see. Thank you, I can move, I
have clothes to wear.
Big deal, right?
Shoes,
right? So many blessings. And then you eat, you're hungry. So instead of just stuff the apple in your face, wow, God, thank you, I have this apple,
And it came from a tree. Like, you even have to stop and think which blessing it is and notice where it came from. Is it from the ground or the tree? Is it a grain?
Right. It's so easy to take these things for granted. But we have hostages in Gaza who can't eat whenever they want. We have grandparents who survived the Holocaust who cannot eat whenever they wanted. And we can. But we're so used to it, we don't even feel gratitude and joy at that. So we would need to say these blessings, and it's very helpful to connect and feel that connection.
One more piece I think it's important just to touch upon today, because we're talking about talking to God in our own words, and there's actually a structure that we're taught of how to do this, right? If you go before someone important, you practice and you talk about what are you going to say. And so too, when we talk before God, we can whisper, we can cry from our heart, we can scream, any of that. But there is a certain structure. And the structure goes like this: praise, request, thanks. So the first thing we do is acknowledge who we're talking to, right? God, Creator, Almighty, infinite source of everything. However you want to address God. And it could also be something like the creator of this mountain that I see that's so gorgeous, and anything that really brings that awareness into ourselves of who we're talking to before we start. The next piece is the request, is to ask. Ask for anything and everything. And then the last, and you can go on and on and on. You can have a 20-minute conversation. You can have an hour-long conversation. You can cry, you can beg, you can plead, you can ask for God to give you the words to ask him with to get what you need. It's not that we have to come in and be perfect. Like, Hashem, help me know what to say. Help me know how to do this, how to approach you. Help me have the words so that you'll answer me and you'll give me what I want. And then thank you. At the end, we always say thank you. We say thank you for what we do have already. It can also be thank you because we know that whatever we're asking for is that something that God can give us. And so we're even just thanking God for the ability, like we're thinking preemptively, right? TIA, thanks in advance. So we're thinking preemptively, but also it's an amazing opportunity to take a few minutes and just have some gratitude. Think about whatever in your life is on your mind, whatever is in your heart right now that you're feeling grateful for. And that in and of itself, right? We know there's so many studies that in itself does wonders for a person, for your mental health and well-being. And just imagine doing this a couple times a day. It's transformative.
Yeah, I think you'll clearly be a much happier person when you're stopping and saying thank you and noticing the good. Because otherwise, there's so much good we all experience every day, but if you don't ever like really observe or notice it, then it doesn't really help you. It's of no benefit to you if you don't feel that, feel that joy. We live in a world where everything's so fast-paced. It's so easy to just miss these moments of joy. And it's so important sometimes to just stop yourself and slow down and be like, wow, this is very special. This is amazing. And I'm guilty of this also in our life. We're very busy and running around, but it's so important whenever we can, just stop and be like, wow, look at that kid. Look how sweet they are, how cute they are.
Or that flower in my garden. How does it get so tall and open in the daytime and close in the night with immense wisdom?
Where did those leaves come from? That now it's hot, but I have shade. I could walk in the shade. Whatever it is, there's so much that we could be grateful for. And it's important that this helps us to start like living our lives and not just autopilot our lives. We could actually experience our lives and live it and feel the joy in our lives. But we have to open up our eyes and notice these things.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I think
that's it on prayer.
Well, for now.
You think we should do another episode? Let us know if you want more. If you want to hear more about Mechitza and prayer in the synagogue and whatever you want to learn about.
Let us know. Yeah. Let us know your interests. And
we appreciate your feedback.
Yeah. This is just kind of a prayer 101 today. Just some of the basics, but there's probably a lot more to delve into for sure. Rabbi Pincus has a whole book on a whole bunch of different types of prayer. And sometimes prayers have words, and sometimes they don't have words, and sometimes they're with tears, and sometimes they're not. Sometimes we really feel it, sometimes we don't. There's all kinds of aspects of prayer, and we're happy to dive deeper with y'all as well. So thank you for your time, and have a great week. Signing off from Judaism with Altitude. Please like, share, subscribe, and keep sharing. And subscribe again with another email address. Cheerio then.
Daddy got that vibe so true, talking love, we're talking faith, at a higher view, from betting games to Torah flames, yeah they break it through. Judaism without its too. The building rhythm, feel the spark, shining bright when times are dark. They lift you up, they keep it real. Jewish soul you can feel. So the end, don't let it wait. Sarah and Daddy elevate. Judaism without altitude. Catch you next time, keep it good. Feel the rhythm, feel the spark, shine up bright when times are tough. They lift you up, they keep it real, Jewish soul you can feel. So tune in, don't let it wait. Sarah and Teddy elevate, Sarah and Teddy elevate. Judaism with altitude. Catch you next time, keep it good, keep it good. Catch you next time, keep it good, keep it good. Catch you next time, keep it good, keep it good. Oh, Sarah and Teddy got that vibe so true.